Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues as well. Today we're going to talk about the regime change in Pakistan and the political crisis there. Now, Shehbaz Sharif has been elected unopposed as the next Prime Minister of Pakistan, succeeding Imran Khan, who was removed by a no-confidence vote on Saturday. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, that is PTI, boycotted the Prime Minister's election process in the National Assembly. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan was quoted by his party's official Twitter handle as saying that PTI MNAs, that is members of National Assembly, will also resign in the protest, and in fact some of them have already done so. Meanwhile, a Pakistani court on Monday deferred until April 27 the indictment of Shehbaz Sharif and his son Hamza Shehbaz in a high-profile money laundering case and extended their pre-arrest bail as well. In today's episode, we will discuss and analyze various aspects of this political crisis in the neighboring state and the regime change there as well. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you. Beginning with, we have with us former Ambassador Aftab Seth, who's joining us. We also have Professor Madhav Nalapat, UNESCO Peace Chair at Manipal University, and retired Lieutenant General Satish is also with us, Defence and Strategic Affairs expert. Welcome, all of you gentlemen, to Sansad Television. I'll begin with you, Ambassador Seth, and all of us have witnessed over the past 2 to 3 weeks how things have changed and moved quickly in Pakistan there. Now, from here onwards, there's a new Prime Minister, but of course, once again, that record stays unbroken of not even a single Prime Minister able to complete the elected tenure, the full tenure there in Pakistan. That's one thing. Second is, when we look at Shehbaz Sharif, quite a lot of controversies associated with him as well. What is it that you believe are going to be his immediate challenges there?
Thank you. Just two things I must underline. Shehbaz Sharif is, of course, the brother of Nawaz Sharif. And Nawaz Sharif has a long history of having been personally picked by General Zia-ul-Haq to be the Chief Minister of Pakistan when General Zia was the President of Pakistan. So he and Sayyid Ghaus Ali Shah, the Chief Minister of Sindh, were two hand-picked Chief Ministers, as was Muhammad Khan Junejo, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So dismissal of Prime Ministers or Chief Ministers in office is old hat as far as Pakistan is concerned. Junejo was dismissed in May 1988 by Zia-ul-Haq because he was getting too big for his boots in Afghanistan. Benazir Bhutto faced a no-confidence motion. This is not the first one that we have with Imran. In November 1989, a year after she came to power, but she managed somehow to defeat that no-confidence motion. Okay. So this, in fact, is the first no-confidence motion that has actually been seen through. But you have the spectacle of the opposition now boycotting the assembly, which is a, sort of nullifies the sense of victory. And as you said yourself, Shehbaz Sharif, as much as Nawaz Sharif, are facing various cases of various kinds, money laundering or corruption or whatever you call. So this seems to be endemic with the whole range of politicians in Pakistan. And we don't know how President Alvi is going to react, because he is also a nominee, in a sense, of the same party. So whether he's going to play ball or whether he is going to be changed in the next few weeks' time, we don't know. Okay. Remember that presidents have been changed. Zia-ul-Haq was changed by a plane crash. And according to the Constitution, the chairman of the Senate becomes the acting president. Okay. So we don't know what in the next 2-3 weeks we're going to see, and how Shehbaz Sharif and his cabinet and their allies, their motley collection of allies, they have, I think, Fazlur Rahman of the Jamaat-e-Islami as one of their allies. And of course, they have Bilawal Benazir Zardari, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, as one of their allies, the PPP.
Okay.
So how this is going to play out, I cannot possibly foresee.
Okay, indeed.
But I think things are not going to be as stable as we would have liked, without, for a minute, denigrating the fact that the Supreme Court has excelled itself, I think, in being unanimous in upholding democracy from this point of view.
Okay,
and I think
we'll come to that part as well. Mr. Seth, we'll come to that part as well. That's a very interesting comment which you're making there vis-a-vis the other institutions in Pakistan, be it the Supreme Court and of course the other institution is the army there. But let me bring in Professor Nalapat here. Professor Nalapat, when we're talking about Shehbaz Sharif, the new Prime Minister, 23rd of Pakistan so far, since independence, and 1.5 years almost left before the elections, not much time. So, of course, there are a lot of challenges vis-a-vis not only keeping the alliance intact, which has brought him to power and dealing with the opposition, but also other issues as well, specifically the diplomatic issues, because the cable crisis, which was mentioned by Imran Khan, that seemingly is going to be a big challenge for Shehbaz to handle.
Well, look, personally, I don't give much of a future to the incoming Prime Minister. He's going to become Prime Minister in a very short while, 8:30 p.m. Indian time. The reality is that the army was a little nervous because it has started becoming unpopular even in the Punjab, which is basically the bedrock of the Pakistan military, the province of Punjab. And it was felt that Shehbaz Sharif, who, whatever his other disqualifications, it is accepted that he represents Punjab state. All his political life, he has never represented Pakistan. He has represented Punjab. So the first point is that this is a sign of the problem that the army is facing, even in the Punjab, where it is becoming unpopular. Now, secondly, they wanted to use Imran Khan as a lightning rod. A lot is going wrong in Pakistan, and a lot of the blame for that is because of the draining of resources. And if I may say so, the participation of the military in all kinds of extracurricular activities, which have got Pakistan into the grey list of FATF, and frankly deserves to be in the blacklist long ago. Now, there is a worry that, finally the United States and the European partners may wake up from their sleep and understand that, the sanctioning the Pakistan military is absolutely essential if you want to show that you're serious in the war on terror.
Okay.
So in that situation, I think they basically, they had chosen Imran Khan essentially to be an ambassador to the Western world, to kind of lull the Western world into ignoring the fact that the Pakistan military today is completely aligned with the PLA, with China, is no longer aligned with the United States. But Imran Khan is very popular in the Western world. He's also popular in parts of India. And they believe that that would help in ensuring that India also is lulled into, in a sense of complacency, and will again give the kind of unilateral compromises that India has made repeatedly in the past. The Western world did not buy into the Imran Khan, Imran Khan is a great friend of the West. And Imran, of course, quickly went back and had to agree to becoming a close, if I may say, close ally. I'm using the word ally, but it's much less than ally of China. So this is the point, very frankly, about Imran Khan. He failed in meeting the parameters of the military, which was a better relationship with the Western world, in spite of the fact that the Pakistan military and therefore the state is totally linked to China. Secondly, as a lightning rod, it's not the military's fault, it's not anybody else's fault, it's only Imran Khan, Prime Minister Imran Khan's fault that the people's lives are in such bad shape after COVID and are now with this horrible situation in Ukraine. And the third thing, of course, is that the Baloch, the Pashtuns, I'm surprised to see how many Pashtuns are now coming out openly against the Pakistan military. The Sindhis have always been like that. And it is why this kind of a coalition between two natural enemies, the PMLL, the Nawaz Sharif faction, and the Bhutto party, the PPP, they're natural enemies. And it's a very unnatural alliance. So frankly, I don't think Shehbaz Sharif is going to raise the popularity of the military or raise the popularity of his government. And we're coming to ending, if you don't mind, on this court verdict. Elections are fundamental in a democracy. And here you have a Supreme Court that said nothing doing, no elections. You will continue to have a government that we don't know represent the people. I'm not sure that that is a great testament to the democracy of Supreme Court, or a testament to the fact that the Supreme Court always follows the control tower, which is the corps commanders and the chief of staff of the Pakistan Army.
Okay, now that's again vis-a-vis the Supreme Court, one of the institutions. Another view there, which you're pointing out, Professor Nalapat. Let me bring in General Dua here as well. General Dua, your views vis-a-vis the role so far which has been played by Pakistani Army in this entire political crisis which we have witnessed in Pakistan for the past 3 to 4 weeks, and from here onwards, as Professor Nalapat is referring to it, that of course there is a very big unseen hand of Pakistani Army behind everything which happens in Pakistan.
Let me begin with the last sentence that you of yours, that the Pakistan Army has a hand in everything that happens in Pakistan. We all know that the establishment, as it is called, calls the shots. At the present moment, it is going to be it's rather tough that let me rephrase that again. At the present moment, the Pakistan Army would not like to come into the power. Pakistan is in a very low spot every which way. Politically, we are seeing the crisis unfold. And as my two esteemed co-panelists have brought out, we are not seeing much joy in this coalition that has been cobbled together to bring down Imran Khan. Economically, they are at their worst ever. As far as diplomatic goodwill is concerned, they are losing out on the goodwill of the Americans. So, and they're not really their diplomatic stock is not very good every which way. Even Taliban, which is in power in Afghanistan, does not seem to be, or they don't seem to be in good books with each other. So, all in all, this is not the time that army would like to take over, to put it very crudely, in any manner. On the other hand, this situation, the security situation in Pakistan, both within and without, is very precarious. It is because of the Russia-Ukraine war, we have actually stopped talking about Afghanistan internationally. Otherwise, ever since Taliban came to power and their sort of enchantment or disenchantment levels with Pakistan came to be known, then we have seen that the Pashtun dynamics has, or the Pashtun problem has acquired its own added dynamics on both sides of the Durand line. The Baluch problem, the Sindh problem continues unabated. The army is really deployed in counter-terrorism operations on its western front. With India, as far as the LOC is concerned, well, the ceasefire for once is holding out. Ceasefire for last 1 year, little over 1 year, is holding out, bringing a lot of relief to the people who live on the LOC on both sides, on both the countries, whether they're soldiers or citizens. But within Pakistan, you talk of Tehreek-e-Insaf Pakistan. I mean, they are mainstreaming the fundamentalist organizations, as it were. So today, there is a danger of anger spilling on the streets, whether it is to do with the fundamental organizations or with the political turmoil or both. So if anger spills on the streets and goes beyond the capability of the police or police forces, then the Pakistan Army will have to underwrite the internal security situation as well. So all in all, they are not in a happy position. They do manage to call the shots all the time, but they are sitting on pins as far as the situation within and without is concerned.
So very precarious situation there in Pakistan, even for the Pakistani army there. And as I said, when we are looking at it from a diplomatic angle, and let's try and understand that part also. It looks like Pakistan is hemmed in from all sides. as Professor Nalapat was referring to. It could not, impress upon the Western powers or the European world in trying to understand its point of view. As far as China and Russia is concerned, it seems like, the statements which came in from the Pakistani army chief trying to go ahead and do some damage control seem to have not gone down well with Russia as well.
Yes. Well, the relationship with China, of course, is on a different level altogether. But Pakistan has always had a problem with the West in one way or another, particularly with the Americans. But the Americans have, in spite of all entreaties by us, continued to support the Pakistan military, including Zia-ul-Haq, because they thought he was the bulwark, and this pariah overnight became the great fighter against the Soviets in Afghanistan. So they have, and long after Zia had gone, they have supported the Pakistan military in one way or another. Now, it's a different fact that Imran Khan went out of his way to be nasty to the Americans and call them names. That doesn't work very well. But when I saw Professor had mentioned that they might sanction the Pakistan military, I frankly don't see that happening. Because when it comes to the crunch, the American military tend to give these Pakistan military people a little bit of rope, a little loose rope, and say, well, they have to do this for domestic reasons. But frankly, they are the most stable element in Pakistan, and we don't want the country to fall apart. That would be a terrible thing for us. So I don't know if they would actually get down to imposing sanctions on anyone in Pakistan, even though they know jolly well that elements in the army have been supporting terrorism across our borders. We know that. It's from the time of Zia-ul-Haq's Operation Zodiac in the 80s. When he failed in Khalistan, he moved his attention to Pakistan, to Kashmir. So we know that there are very strong elements in the army who would also want to do that. Whether they are able to do it at this point at this point of time is a moot question, because, as you say, the diplomatic environment is not conducive to their taking too high a profile in resolving the domestic crisis.
Now that's going to be really important, Ambassador Seth, and we're running short of time. But quickly, if I could take 2-minute comments each from General Dua and Professor Nalapat as well. I'll start with you, Professor Nalapat, first. Vis-a-vis the overall situation, as all of you are describing, internally, when we look at the political situation, economic situation, the security situation as well, and the diplomatic aspect also, as Ambassador Seth was describing, looks like the situation is very grave, much grave than what it looks like from outside in Pakistan.
You're quite right. And may I point out that United States is not China, where Xi Jinping represents the government. Joe Biden or Blinken do not represent the United States. You have public opinion, you have Congress, and they are turning very strongly against Pakistan. Why? Because they have seen the Pakistan military, and General Dua will bear me out, basically conniving at the killing of US service people. So that particular mood of indulgence to Pakistan is changing, and that will be a worry of the men in khaki. Look, I quite agree with General Dua that the military doesn't want to come forward. We all know, I think, all of us here know what has been said, so many times in the last few hundred years, that the power without responsibility is basically a prerogative of a particular profession. And the Pakistan military would love to have power without responsibility and have some dummy prime minister. Now, Imran was also a dummy prime minister, and he turned against the military. The same reason that Nawaz Sharif turned against the military, the same reason that Zardari turned against, because the military turned against him, and he's turned against the United States. So the United States is not, I won't say turned against him, but frankly knows that he has no power at all. So I would only like to say that Pakistan is on a precipice. FATF, for example. The fact is that it richly deserves to be on the blacklist.
Okay.
China is protecting Pakistan.
Indeed.
And Imran Khan has gone and attacked the United States. Actually, I don't know if it is because he mispronounced the name. The actual country very interested in seeing Imran Khan go to save its precious relationship between the PLA and the Pakistan army is China. Is not the United States. I agree completely with Ambassador Seth, whom I have admired over about 2 decades for his tremendous work, including in communication or foreign policy. But I'd like to point out that this is the situation there, and it's not India's business to save Pakistan.
Indeed.
We cannot do it.
Okay.
It is the Pakistan people's right to choose what they want. And if there is more autonomy for the provinces and the people of Pakistan want that, I don't believe any country should stand in the way.
Okay.
Let the Pakistan people, all the people, not just the men in khaki, decide.
Okay, so the people of Pakistan do have that right to go ahead and take a decision with their future. Quick concluding comment in 60 seconds or so, General Dua, in terms of, from here onwards, how do you see the situation, emerging out?
Well, the opposition has, now it's not the opposition. The 2 mainstream parties have come together. 2 arch rivals have come together to oust Imran Khan. Politically, I don't know if they will really be able to stick together, or will at some pretext or some excuse or some incident or some trigger, there will be dissensions between them.
Okay.
Because if there are dissensions between them, there again, since the elections are not going to be held anytime soon, then PTI still has a sizable majority. So we are looking at a political imbroglio for some time.
Okay.
It remains to be seen how much the generals in Pakistan can make sure that everyone falls in line.
Okay. Okay.
And as far as the economic situation is concerned, unless they take some drastic measures, which I really don't think at the present moment they're really going to be in a position to do so, they are going to be in economic trouble.
Okay.
The tightrope that they walk between China and US is that today Pakistan is getting disillusioned by the Chinese weapons and platform and equipment, as is Myanmar and Bangladesh. So they actually want to buy or lean towards US. In fact, you remember the statement of their army chief saying, I want to go to Turkey. They want to buy weapons from Turkey rather than China. Their own personal interest of the generals lies in the dollar accounts they have, and their families and wards are all studying in US or working in US.
Okay.
So there is a dichotomy there. They're getting pulled on 2 sides between China and USA.
Okay.
It is really going to be interesting times ahead.
That indeed sums up the situation, General Dua. We're running short of time, but thank you so much, Lieutenant General Satish Dua, Professor Madhav Das Nalapat, as well as Ambassador Seth for joining us and sharing your important views and insight. As our experts were pointing out, indeed a very grave situation there in Pakistan. The new Prime Minister might have been elected in the National Assembly, that is Shehbaz Sharif, but the flux in the political situation still continues in the country there. And of course, there are a lot of variables which need to be looked at. Most important amongst them is the role being played by the Pakistani army as to what will happen next. And we'll keep a close watch on that, keep on bringing you all the details as well and analyze them here on Sansad Television. Till then, keep watching. Thank you.